What if I told you one of history's biggest misconceptions was about height? Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who conquered most of Europe, reshaped laws, and terrified monarchs, has been reduced in pop culture to a short, angry guy with a chip on his shoulder. But here's the truth. Napoleon wasn't short. In fact, he was around average height, maybe even slightly taller for his time. So how did this myth even start? Let's break it down. Today, we're busting one of the biggest myths in history, that Napoleon Bonaparte was a short man. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. So why does almost everyone think he was? Stick around, because the truth is a lot more fascinating than you might expect. Napoleon Bonaparte, the famous French military leader and emperor, is often remembered as a genius and a short guy with a temper. The term Napoleon Complex is even used today to describe people who overcompensate for their height. But here's the catch: Napoleon was actually average height for his time. So where did this idea come from? It starts with a simple case of measurement confusion. When Napoleon died in 1821, his height was recorded as 5 feet 2 inches. But those were French inches, which were longer than English inches. When converted, Napoleon's height was actually around 5 feet 6 to 5 feet 7 inches in today's measurements. In other words, he was slightly above average height for a Frenchman in the early 19th century. So how did he end up with a reputation for being tiny? Part of the blame goes to British propaganda during the Napoleonic Wars. The British loved to mock their enemies, and Napoleon was a perfect target. Political cartoons portrayed him as small and angry, literally trying to make him look weaker than he was. In reality, Napoleon was far from insecure. He was charismatic, deeply intelligent, and had a photographic memory. He rose from a modest Corsican background to become Emperor of France. He rewrote France's legal system with the Napoleonic Code, revolutionized military strategy, and inspired nationalism across Europe. He was a giant of history figuratively and, honestly, not that small literally. Interestingly, Napoleon's elite imperial guard was made up of very tall men, which may have made him appear shorter when standing among them. Another little twist that helped the myth grow: these images stuck. Combine that with the height misunderstanding, and boom! History remembers Napoleon as this pint-sized tyrant, even though he wasn't short at all. Movies, books, and TV shows kept the joke alive. Even today, the idea of the short Napoleon is part of pop culture. But it's a reminder of how perception can outweigh reality, especially when the media or memes get involved. What can we learn from this? First, always question what you've been told, even if it's been repeated 1,000 times. Second, never underestimate the power of misinformation. And third, being average height is totally fine. So what's the takeaway here? Don't trust everything you've heard, especially when it comes from your enemies. Even giants of history can fall victim to memes and misinterpretations. If you learned something new today, hit that like button, share this video with a history buff, and make sure you subscribe for more fun, eye-opening stories from the past. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.